Okay, back for another stream. Just getting set up here. I haven't been streaming in a little while. I tried out streaming on Mixer, and that didn't. I don't know. There's doesn't seem like they're ready for art streams. So I'm back here working on my water dragon princess. For those of you who are checking out this video for the first time and haven't seen any of my other videos, I'm working on a series of dragon princesses, and the finished product is going to be in this style, and you can see I'm working on it. This is an air dragon, and it's not a Game of Thrones type of dragon. It's more based on Japanese, Chinese, Asian style of dragons, with typical, Asian style of the mythology and some of the elements and sensibilities. So, yeah, follow along and just hang out while I draw. As I draw, I'll talk about my process and my materials. Right now I'm using a 2mm lead holder with 2B leads. I've tried all different kinds of 2mm leads, and for me, to get the widest range, I do best with 2B leads. When I'm doing more of a realistic or just very heavily shaded, then I use a kneaded eraser in order to be able to get the most dynamics out of it as possible. One of the things I like about the kneaded eraser is, you can just lift graphite, like right here. I think that because her mane is supposed to be very light, I think it's a little bit too dark. So I can use the kneaded eraser to just tap at it and lift some of the graphite without destroying the line work or the paper. One of the problems with using an eraser on paper is that when doing sketching like this, it's better to be very additive. Needy eraser. Yep. It's a very needy eraser. It just wants to be loved like all the rest of us. Why doesn't anybody love their needy eraser? Why? Do you hear an echo on my voice? It sounds like it's echoing. Let me check and see if this echo? No? No? It just sounds like it's echoing to me. Okay. There is an echo? That's weird. Let me see if on this mic. No, doesn't say so. No, I don't have two outputs. It's going theoretically to the right place. No, I don't have two outputs. It's going. Hold on, let me mute this. Can you hear? Can you hear me? How does this sound now? Can you hear me now? No echo? Nothing? How does this sound now? Can you hear me now? No echo? Nothing? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, good. All right, I don't know what's going on. It still echoes? Okay. So I'm thinking that that's an issue with OBS, because OBS, I'll have to play around with it. It waits for a while, like a couple seconds. Does it wait for a couple seconds? Because there's nothing coming out of the speakers. Looks like it might be some kind of crosstalk with OBS. Looks like it might be some kind of crosstalk with OBS. Yeah, I hear that. Okay. That is weird. Yeah, I hear that. Okay. It sounds like it's... Okay. It sounds like OBS is having some kind of crosstalk. I'll have to check that out. But trying to get too annoyed, like I am too annoyed. So, all right. So anyway, back to the stream. Okay, so back to the stream, which is why we were here for drawing. With the kneaded eraser and the hard-hearted pencil. Who does not love the kneaded eraser? See, that's the problem. Is the pencil doesn't show love, and the kneaded eraser is just unfulfilled. Alright, so I think the hair is coming along nicely. The mane. One problem when sketching hair is that you always want it to be nice and flowy, so that it doesn't look like it's has any sharp angles or sharp turns. It should always be a little bit naturally, just kind of following the rules of just multiple thin strands. And so when you get into a situation like this where you have multiple bands of hair that they all kind of look natural, so it doesn't look like you have a lot of lines, which you do have, but you want to give the illusion of just more just full of individual strands of hair. So you want to make sure that you don't put in too much and that it all flows a natural, easy line. To give the illusion that it's kind of free and being affected by the water, the swirls of the water, instead of just, oh, here's a big mess of hair flying all about. You want it to look kind of effortless and natural. Sometimes when you do a drawing like this, I have the guidelines here to create an overall sense of what's going on. But then when I get to it, filling it in, I kind of freestyle a little bit to add a bit of texture and add a little bit of realism, because in reality, since this dragon is underwater, you're going to get different hair flowing at different rates. Different clumps are going in different directions, and you're going to have this layering over top of everything that creates a sense of depth. Like here, you have the ear come, and then you have the hair in front of the ear, and then everything all kind of swirls around together and mixes up the farther away it gets from the roots. And you're going to have a little bit of shading in certain areas as you create the layering to give the illusion of things being in front of other things. Which kind of reminds me of the Monty Python with the Society for Putting Things on Top of Other Things. And so you create a bit of shading, even though the mane is supposed to be light. You want to give that sense of depth. And with pencil, you want to make sure not to destroy the integrity of the grain of the paper by going too hard all at once. You wanna still give that grainy texture that gives the overall finished product a more of a realistic look instead of an illustrated look with blocks of solid colors and tones. So I want to make sure that when I put in the shading that it doesn't go too dark, because I don't want to make it look like the hair itself is dark, only that it has a bit of a shadow on it. And that's again only to create a depth of having different segments of the mane in front or in back. So there's a little bit of darkness in here. You can still see the strands of the mane, but it's over top of the ear. Now the ear's over top of it. These go over top of the ear. Here's a bit of shading in there. And you still have the mane come through there. I'll finish that once I do this talon. And then in here, I'll create a few random strands, and then overlapping here, just to finish off this side. I'll give it a little bit of finishing touch to this area to help carry the illusion through. And then I have a tail starting here, and then I have a tail starting here. That's going to actually be built out of water and manifest itself into a real tail. And this is going to have a bit of the standard kind of motif of water swirls and water cutting through. So what I'm going to do, and this is another reason what I just did here is another reason why you don't want to layer too heavily all at once, and you want to kind of establish the overall tones and the overall what's going on. But I want to take this swirl of the water and start it more up here as I let it flow down there to create kind of a new swirl that kind of overlaps. And once you get these different overlaps and things working in front of and behind, then you will get that's where you start to really get a depth of the work, instead of just a simple here's a figure, here's a character, and then a lot of times the Irezumi tattoo work in Japan and the stuff that's been coming out of China recently, tattooing has been very underground in China until recently. But a lot of the stuff that's coming out now is really amazing stuff. It definitely has not stopped the artists. It's just they've been a bit more underground. And so now that I've established the swirl and the overall structure of the tail and how the tail is going to be going, I can start really working on the claw with all the talons. And this is also going to be manifesting out of waves of water. And again, we're going to be getting overlap between swirls of water and waves and the physical aspects as the different elements layer one on top of the other and kind of build a complete picture. So I establish the skeletal structure. And as I build it, the character, then I can start really defining each of the individual pieces, each of the knuckles and the bone structure, and then work on adding back in the mane that you'll be able to see through there, like that. And darken it a little bit to set off the claws. And just kind of fill that in, because that's going to be a little bit more ambiguous, because we have the mane coming through here, we have mane that's going to be going behind, but we also have this swirl that's going to be turning into the tail. Behind the pearl, I want to add a little bit of darkness, a little bit of shading, only to set off the pearl and the talon. Some scales. A little bit of texture on there. The scales that it would have on the talons would be very more softer and more connected than would be on the rest of the back and the rest of the body. So you're going to get a lot more subtlety in the shading, because you're not going to be getting the overlap that you normally get with scales. And again, these dragons are based on the Asian dragon motif of dragons being developed from koi fish rather than just a lizard. So need to be a little bit more subtle. Need to think of the scales in fish terms rather than kind of the scaly skin of snakes and Komodo dragons and such. And so in the areas where you're going to have smaller scales, they're going to lay more flat, and you're going to have less contrast where the scales do meet, in the sense of sketching it. You're not really going to get that chiaroscuro of the darkness where the on top scale sits on the beneath scale. Just not going to have that kind of, it's going to be laying a lot more flat. And one of the things that I want to do right now, what I'm doing is I'm establishing the areas that I'm going to be doing the shading, and make sure that the balance is correct, and make sure that overall the elements are all correct. And then, since she's going to be quite dark, I need to evaluate how dark I want to make the dragon parts. She's not going to be insanely dark, but just instead of a bright figure with a dark mane, it's going to be a darker figure with a white mane. Like on this one, the air dragon, she's a little bit dusky but not really dark, but then she has the black mane, and she's this one is going to be the opposite. She's going to be having a bright mane, but then the skin and scales are all going to be darker. I'm going to be looking for more of a neutral tone rather than almost black, but then definitely you want to be able to look at it and say that it's a lot darker. It's not just a bright colored dragon. And as I work, I'm utilizing the characteristics of my tools to create what I need to. The 2mm lead has a wide range of tones available because, if you're using a standard mechanical pencil, then it always stays sharp. On here, I can, as it gets dull, I can work on some softer areas. and then I can use my kneaded eraser to pick up very small areas. Texture on this. I'm not going to be doing too much on the pearl right at once. And I always like to watch out for intersections, places where lines will come together. I want to make sure that it always stays very clear what's going on where with which elements. And so, I want to make sure that if a line, like this line of the whisker, it's a little shallow for me there, and so what I would prefer to do is, there's two different things I can do. I can either straighten this line that way, or I can make this line more shallow, and I don't want to change that line there. And I want to make sure that I like this curve because I followed it through, so I want to change this line to be a little bit more steep of an angle, a little bit more perpendicular of an angle, so that it doesn't look like it's resting on that line there. A lot of times artists don't really think about those kind of things, but I do. I've seen a lot of artwork where they just put in lines and they say this element goes here, that element goes there, and then wherever it just happens to lay. Sometimes you get intersections, but I don't like intersections at all in my line work, unless it's intentional, unless you actually have two things that are intersecting at a particular point. And so, let's see, I have that established. I'm working on the elements behind the talon and the pearl, but in front of the face. A lot of times people think that, hey, can you just do this real quick drawing for me for free? Because obviously you do well, and I like what you do, and I can't draw. But, every day you're putting something new up. A lot of times people don't realize the time that it does take to create artwork. It's not always just putting a bunch of lines on a page. A lot of times there's just a lot of subtle shading going back and forth. Sometimes there's a lot of reworking. So yeah, little tip, kids. When you look at something that you see is really amazing, that you like, don't ever assume that it took the artist like 2 seconds to do it. I've seen so many people who are just like, oh, you can just do this real quick. But I believe that the time that you put into something adds value to whatever it is. So if you see something that looks really, really awesome, they probably spent a lot of time on it. Or at least they spent more time on it than you would think. Alright, so I got a little bit of a late start today, so I need to wrap up. I'm actually a few minutes late wrapping it up, but getting a late start means that this is a pretty short stream. But I think I did a good amount today. Did some more of the main, established the swirl here, started working on the talons and the pearl and the dragon whiskers. The koi whiskers. So I plan to get started streaming earlier for the rest of the week. So I hope if you see this and you like it and you are not following me on Twitch, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and follow. And I'm actually about more than 60% of the way towards becoming an affiliate. So if you like it and can help me out, the only thing I need right now is a few more followers. So if you like what you see, click that follow button. And hope to see everybody tomorrow. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, go to twitch.tv/PinkyRacer. And if you're not following, I do post updates ahead of time and afterwards on Twitter. And I post some stuff. I'm not as good on Instagram as I probably should be. On Instagram, both of which are Pinky Racer Draws. So go and follow me there. And then you can see updates. And I put out notifications of when I'm getting ready to stream on Twitter. So if you're interested in keeping track of when I'm going to be streaming, I do tweet out right before I'm about to stream, and then also right when I do start streaming. So yeah, just click that follow button and come back tomorrow. I hope to stream a little bit earlier tomorrow than when I started today. So, yeah, come back and check it out. So, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and everybody's day is going really, really well. And I'll see everybody tomorrow.